Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got lots of big updates I want to share with you. So, I want to start off talking about these sanctions that were put onto Russia on last Friday, January 10th. We heard that the United States, along with the UK and Japan, were all sanctioning Russia at the same time, primarily targeting their energy and oil sector. And we know that more than 180 of Russia's shadow fleet of oil tanker vessels have also been sanctioned. So now we're starting to see the effects of that. We have a report coming out from China today. You can see here on your screen. Sanctions on Russia take hold. China refuses sanctioned oil tankers. Three tankers with more than 2 million barrels of Russian oil are floating in the waters off eastern China and cannot be unloaded after U.S. imposed new sanctions on Russia's largest oil companies on Friday, January 10th. Okay, so you heard that right. So, three oil tankers off the coast of China right now that cannot unload the Russian oil. Okay, this is due to these sanctions that were placed on Russia Friday. So, this is very big, and this is only the start. I know it's only three tankers right now, but this will build up over time. And I'm sure there's more oil tankers that are heading over to China right now. And at some point, once they arrive, they're not going to be able to unload their oil. Okay, I'm also hearing that India is going to be doing the same thing here very soon. Any Russian oil tankers that are sanctioned will not be able to drop off oil at the ports in India. So that's very big as well. Russia's already going to be losing lots of money. I have some updates regarding Gazprom, the major oil company in Russia. And we'll talk a little bit about Russia's economy and how they're going to be impacted by this. And then we also have a story that's coming out from Tula in Russia. There was a military hospital that caught on fire. We don't really know how it did, but there's lots of videos coming out on that today. And as far as I know, it's still burning at this time, and it's been burning since earlier during the day or this morning inside of Russia. So I'll give you guys an update on that. And then I've got lots of other things I want to give you guys some updates on also. We've been covering lots of different stories over the last few days since Friday. So I've got lots of updates regarding those as well. So let's go ahead and jump into the news, guys. We're going to hop on over here to Ukrainska Pravda just for a moment. I want to show you this official report that originally came from Bloomberg, but Ukrainska Pravda covered it also. And it says here China refuses to accept tankers with Russian oil after new U.S. sanctions. This is just coming out today, January 13th, 2025. And it says here three tankers carrying more than 2 million barrels of Russian oil are floating in the waters off the coast of East China and cannot be unloaded after the United States imposed new sanctions on Russia's largest oil companies on Friday, the 10th of January. And it says here the Hui Hai, I think is how you say that, Pacific was due to arrive in Dongjiakou in Shandong province, on the 15th of January after unloading almost 770,000 barrels of ESPO crude oil from the Russian Pacific port of Kosmino earlier this month. However, it changed course over the weekend. It is now parked at sea with the oil on board. According to Bloomberg, this vessel, along with many others, has been subjected to the most aggressive package of measures aimed at Russian oil exports since the invasion of Ukraine in early 2022. Another tanker, the Murmar, left Kosmino on the 5th of January and more than 755,000 barrels of ESPO on board and was due to call at the port of Yantai this week, but is now waiting off the coast. The Oleo left the Russian port on 7th of January with almost 709,000 barrels of same grade and was also bound for Yantai, but is now in the Yellow Sea. The tankers are not offloading days after Shandong Port Group Company, which operates several ports in the province, called on terminals to stop allowing sanctioned oil tankers to dock or unload cargo. So interesting. I wonder what these tankers are going to do if they cannot unload into China. Not sure if maybe they will be sent somewhere else, maybe offload another country. I have no idea, but we know for sure that China and India right now are starting to enforce these sanctions, and they are not allowing these sanctioned ships to come into their territory and drop off this oil. So very big update today, and that was extremely quick. Okay, just 3 days later, we're already starting to see these sanctions take effect. So we're gonna hop on over to X now, and I've got lots of things I want to share with you over here. We're going to start off with Anton Yurchenko. Bloomberg also writes that India plans to reject oil tankers that carry Russian oil if they are sanctioned by the U.S., Reportedly, these vessels will not be allowed to discharge. An unnamed Indian official told Bloomberg that global supply of oil is sufficient, so India will be able to buy oil from others, and the increase in oil prices will not last long, although India might not be able to buy oil at the discounted price that it currently pays Russia. The official added, however, that Russia will find ways to get its barrels to India. This was according to the Indian Express. So these are some of the shares of India's top suppliers of crude, where they get their sources from. So Russia clearly being a major percentage, 40.9%. So it looks like they will take a little bit of a hit, as they're not going to be able to get some of this oil from Russia anymore, but maybe they're going to try to get it from other sources at higher prices. So it will affect India's economy a little bit. But Russia ultimately taking the major blow here, as now two major uh, importers of oil, of Russian oil, India and China now are not going to be able to receive this oil from these sanctioned fleets of vessels. Okay, so very big update today also from India. Now from Jurgen Noddet, due to record losses, Russia's Gazprom is cutting half of its staff. The number of employees at headquarters being reduced from 4,100 to 2,500. The reason is banal, lack of money. Gas supplies to Europe have practically, come to a standstill. Only the Turkish stream is working, and then at minimal capacity. The price of Gazprom shares reached an all-time low. Bankruptcy is therefore imminent. So even Gazprom taking a huge hit. I mean, we know that Gazprom has been doing good for a long time now. You can see the chart here of the Russian pipeline exports to Europe falling off the cliff, okay? Basically ever since right around January of 2020 is when they really started to decline here. But for sure, after the Russian invasion in 2022 is when they really started to taper off. And you can see here they're at extreme lows. So this is why they're now having to lay off nearly almost 50% of their workforce. So they're going to be going from 4,100 down to 2,500 employees with their company over there, and that's very big. Okay, if Gazprom is completely collapsing over there, that's a large percentage of Russia's economy. This was the official report that came out. That's in Russian. But it shows here 4,100. This is talking about their employees down to 2,500 right here. Here's the other part of that official report that was talking about that. Okay, so that's very big also. That's another big sign that, Russia's in trouble here. And it says bankruptcy is therefore imminent. And who knows, maybe very soon Gazprom could be declaring bankruptcy, okay? Also from next to us, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia have appealed to the European Commission to lower the price cap on Russian oil, Reuters reports. This measure aims to reduce Moscow's revenues as it continues its war in Ukraine. The cap set by G7 countries is currently $60 per barrel. Measures aimed at reducing oil exports revenues are crucial as they cut Russia's most important source of income, the appeal to the EU executive body states. Okay, so this is another big one too. Maybe they're gonna lower the price cap from the G7 countries. It's been at $60 for months now. I'm not sure when it was they changed that. I think it was earlier this year when they set it to $60. I think I remember reporting on that. But looks like they might drop it even further. How much will they drop it down to? Maybe 55 or 50, maybe even lower. Who knows? But looks like the G7 countries are working to try to do that right now. Okay, so that could be very big and cost Russia billions of dollars more in losses. Also from Knoll reports, Russia accuses Ukraine of attempting to strike the last gas pipeline supplying Europe, with 9 Ukrainian drones targeting the Russkaya compressor station in Krasnodar Krai on December 11th. Russia's Ministry of Defense claims all drones were shot down, but one caused minor damage to the station. Gas flow reportedly continues as usual. This was apparently the report in Russian on Telegram, talking about the attack on this pipeline. Okay, so looks like it was not destroyed, but there was some damage that was reported. And it says here it was on December 11th, okay? And I believe this should have been the same day that we had that massive attack onto Russia. There was lots of drones that were flying into Russian territory, and we had lots of factories that were exploding. I think if you guys remember that, I reported that. I think that was on the 10th or the 11th, somewhere around there, that I reported that just a couple days ago. So it could have been right around that time when we had these factories that were exploding all over Russia that were being hit by drones, is when this pipeline was reportedly targeted. Okay, and we heard recently that Ukraine might start to target and destroy the last remaining pipelines. So it makes sense why we are hearing this story coming out now. But according to this information, it looks like it's still operational at this time. Now from Jurgen Noddet, Member of Parliament Asakov and Russian Central Bank head Nabiulina consider a complete freeze of deposits unreasonable and even dangerous and are working on the so-called Cyprus scenario to keep banks afloat. It was implemented in 2013 to save the banks of Cyprus. Looks like this. Everything up to the insured amount remains in the possession of the person. 1.4 million rubles, which is equivalent to around 13,000, almost $14,000 if you don't know the conversion for that. I checked on that earlier. Everything above that is converted into shares capital of the bank. In a similar operation, depositors of the Bank of Cyprus once lost 85% of their savings. By the way, at the time, they were also mostly rich Russians. A scenario has an advantage over a simple freeze of deposits in that it reduces the number of dissatisfied and prevents mass panic among depositors. Okay, so this is a big report also coming out from the central bank in Russia. We heard recently they were going to try to take some action as back in, I think it was in November or December, they were supposed to be raising their key interest rate from 21% up to 23%, but lots of pressure was put on Nabiulina, the head of the central bank, this woman right here. So she decided not to raise the key interest rate, but they've got to figure out some other ways to keep cash in the banks without also preventing a major bank run inside of Russia. So another big sign that their economy is not doing good, and most likely if they decide to go through with this plan, it will most likely affect mainly richer Russians, not so much people that are poorer inside of Russia. They're going to be pretty much freezing a lot of the deposits of rich Russians, at least anything beyond that cap of 1.4 million rubles. Okay, so that's very big. They're going to be trying to take some action to circumvent this crisis right now economically in Russia. Also from Bliskovka, in the center of Russian Tula, a military hospital caught fire, Russian media writes. The building belongs to the 39th Separate Medical Unit of the Airborne Forces. Currently, patients and employees are being evacuated. So this was a video coming out earlier today from Tula in Russia, which is very close to Moscow, just a little bit south of the Moscow region. And I want you guys to check this out. This is a military hospital on fire in the city of Tula, Russia. Take a look at this.
Ой, смотри, что творится. У них все этажи палаты заняты. Мгновенно, посмотри, что творится. Из одной комнаты, а дым. Смотри, вообще весь верх горит. Все, только что вот здесь не было дыма, смотри. 2 минуты прям.
Вот это уже выглядит
вот это жесть.
солидно.
Куда он пошел, интересно? По крыше. Спасать крышу?
Из одной комнаты, а дым. Смотри, вообще весь верх горит. Все, только что вот здесь не было дыма, смотри.
Интересно, по крыше. Спасать крышу?
Из этой комнаты.
All right, so a massive fire here at this military hospital inside of Tula, Russia. Now, I don't know exactly how this fire started, wasn't able to find any information on that, but what we do know is that this fire continued all the way through the day because there was video footage coming out just recently showing this thing still on fire even in the nighttime. So this entire top floor of this facility has burned down. So if I get some information on how this started, I will let you guys know at a later time, but I guess it is possible maybe this was some sort of arson or some actual attack on this hospital, considering that it's being used for military purposes, okay? Also from military news UA, in the Kursk region, more than 300 soldiers from the DPRK died, Yonhap citing South Korean intelligence. The total losses of the DPRK group are about 3,000, including 2,700 wounded. Okay, so almost 3,000 casualties, on the North Korean side is being reported by South Korean intelligence. It says here the agency also confirmed the capture of 2 North Korean military personnel. They served in the main intelligence directorate. Okay, here's a photo that came out weeks back showing what appears to be some sort of North Korean soldier in the Kursk region taking cover near what looks like even a tree here in the snow. Okay, so yeah, from what we understand, right around 3,000 casualties already for the North Korean soldiers. Okay, this was being confirmed by South Korean intelligence just today. Also from NOAA reports, Russians in Kursk reportedly destroyed a North Korean SAM based on the TOR M2, but tried to pass it off as a Western air defense system in their own channels. Okay, so on Telegram, there was a report coming out today that apparently there's a North Korean air defense system that was destroyed by the Russians. Okay, so the Russians apparently accidentally hit this thing with an FPV drone. I think this was in the Kursk region. So these were some video evidence and pictures showing that this actually is a North Korean uh, SAM system or air defense system. You can kind of see the comparisons here. They're showing the different, visual representations of this model. And then you can see here, it's kind of the same thing. Okay. So reportedly it was hit by an FPV drone. And this was a report from Telegram. And apparently the Russians were trying to write it off as saying it was not a North Korean air defense system. This was actually a Western air defense system that was destroyed, but major blunder for the Russians, okay? Also from Insider Paper, just in, Trump call with Putin expected soon, Trump advisor says, according to Reuters, okay? This just came out today. I did let you guys know last week, I don't know if it was Friday, Saturday, somewhere around there, I let you know that Trump may be meeting with Putin soon, not necessarily in person, but looks like they could be holding a phone call. And we know that Donald Trump is going to be inaugurated into the office of president for the United States here in the next week on January 20th. So this could be just a little bit of an early communication or phone call that's being held between Trump and Putin. Maybe they're going to be holding another meeting in person very soon after he gets into office. Who knows? We'll see what happens here, but that is expected to be held soon, okay? Also, from War Translated Dmitry, target down. A video of downing of one of the Shaheeds on January 13th has surfaced online. The Air Force Command released footage of combat action against a Shahed-type attack drone on the Eastern Front. Okay, so we got a new video coming out today. It's 30 seconds long showing Ukrainian air defense teams taking down Shahed drones. I thought I'd show this to you guys. Take a look at this. All right, so this is new footage coming out over the last couple of days showing Ukrainian air defense teams taking down Russian Shahed drones incoming to their territory. And as far as I know, I think there was somewhere around 100 or more drones that were flying into Ukraine today coming from Russia. So some new footage to show you guys right there. Let's move on to another update now. From Knoll reports, the fire at the Engels oil depot has reportedly been extinguished, according to Saratov Governor Roman Busargin. Footage this morning shows that there is still a fire despite the claims almost a week ago Ukrainian drones struck the oil depot, inflicting severe damage. Okay, so it's been about 5 or 6 days now since this oil depot, this is the Kombinat Kristall oil depot in the Saratov region, close to the Engels air base for Russia's their bomber fleet, okay? Their bomber fleet stationed at that air base, and this oil depot is strictly used to produce and store fuel for their airplanes, the bomber fleet that's stationed at the Engels Air Base. Okay, so this is a new video coming out showing this thing still on fire, although the governor in the region was claiming that the fire was extinguished. Okay, so looks like, according to this information, it has not been. Okay, so that's about 6 days now, I want to say, that it's still on fire. Okay, also from Jurgen Audit, Ukrainian soldiers send greetings from the new villages in the Kursk region, which they entered during the new offensive. Putin claimed that Ukraine would be expelled from Russian soil after a few days. Now Ukraine has been in Russia for almost 6 months. Oh yes, World War III did not break out because of this. So isn't that crazy, guys? 6 months now, Ukraine is still in the Kursk region, and they're holding on very strong, okay? Looks like we've got video here of another town or village that was taken over. We've got Ukrainian soldiers on top setting up some flags. So go ahead and take a look at this, about 16 seconds long.
Слава Україні! Героям слава!
All right, so I think it's been about 2 times already from Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, claiming that he wanted the Russian forces to push Ukraine out of the Kursk region. I think there was one time and there was like a deadline in December or something like that, or maybe November. Now the next deadline was supposed to be by January 20th by the time Trump got into office. And it doesn't look like Russia's anywhere close to expelling the Ukrainians out of the Kursk region. So they're doing a very good job holding on over there, and they're hanging in strong, okay? Moving on to another update from NOAA reports in Rostov, unknown individuals set fire to the car of a Russian armed forces colonel. The colonel, reportedly an aide to the Southern Military District Commander for physical training, was not named. At the time of the fire, nobody was in the vehicle. So yet again, what looks like another sabotage or attack on another top Russian official. So this time in the Rostov region, his car was reportedly burned down. This was actually coming out yesterday. You can see here January 12th. So this would have been like sometime last night is when this took place. And it looks like he was not in the vehicle, so most likely he was not harmed, but his car was destroyed. Okay, so another attack is what it looks like on a top Russian official. Now from Kyiv Independent, military Russian troops dressed as civilians in Donetsk Oblast. Aerial reconnaissance footage posted on January 12th by the 28th Mechanized Brigade show a couple of alleged Russian soldiers dressed in civilian clothes walking through the city. Okay, so Toretsk is a city on the eastern front in the Donetsk region that has been under heavy attack by the Russians, and the Ukrainians are still there holding on. I'm not sure how much of that town they control right now. I'm assuming they don't control all of it. At some point, we had reports that the Russians were being pushed to the outskirts of that city on the eastern side. But if Russians are now walking around in civilian clothing, trying to disguise themselves as civilians, this tells me that maybe the Russians are starting to push back in. But this was a new update that was a story coming out from the Kyiv Independent just today. Okay, so interesting that the Russians are now starting to do that, dress as civilians in Toretsk. Okay, also from Nexta, Sweden will deploy 3 warships and a reconnaissance aircraft to participate in NATO's mission to patrol the Baltic Sea. This was announced by the country's Prime Minister, Ulf Kristersson. NATO ships are guarding undersea communication cables. The decision comes amid sabotage incidents involving severed undersea cables believed to have been orchestrated by Russian intelligence services. Tankers from Russia's so-called Shadow Fleet, as well as the Chinese vessel Yipeng 3, were spotted at the sites of the incidents. Okay, so after all these cables being cut in the Baltic Sea, NATO's starting to step up their patrols. And if you notice, ever since we started to hear that these patrols are being stepped up, we're not really hearing of cables being damaged anymore. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. Now that Russia, if Russia is purposely doing this, which it kind of looks like it in some ways, at least with some of these oil vessels that have been reportedly damaging these cables in the Baltic Sea and Gulf of Finland recently, that maybe Russia heard the message. Maybe they're stopping doing this now. We also reported just about a week back off the coast of Taiwan, there was a Chinese vessel that was transporting, I think, oil over to South Korea. And they reportedly cut a cable also just a little bit north off the coast of Taiwan just about a week ago. Okay, so pretty crazy. Also, a new update from Bliskovka. Germany handed Ukraine the first of 54 ordered RCH-155 howitzers, according to Stuttgarter Zeitung. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably butchering that. My apologies. The company describes its development as the world's most advanced wheeled howitzer, which for the first time allows you to fire while moving. Wow, that's crazy. The first 6 of these systems will initially remain in Germany and will be used for training Ukrainian soldiers. So here's a new picture of one of these howitzers. Again, the RCH-155 howitzer. Okay, so Ukraine has got one of these so far, and apparently they're going to be getting 54 at some point. So that is pretty cool to see that. Look at the size of that cannon. Absolutely massive. Also from Military News UA, the Ukrainian Armed Forces will most likely receive RCT-30 boxer-wheeled infantry fighting vehicles from KNDS Germany. So take a look at this. Also, it looks very similar to the howitzer that we were just looking at. This one is an infantry fighting vehicle, very similar also with wheels, that Ukraine could be receiving as well. Okay, so this could be very big. We know that a lot of the Striker vehicles that Ukraine has been using in the Kursk region have been very effective. Now more infantry fighting vehicles potentially going to Ukraine from Germany. Now from the Ukrainian Review, fiber optic drones have cropped up more and more in recent months as one of the main solutions to extensive electronic warfare used by both sides. This was reported by Newsweek. Russia is using at least 3 different types of fiber optic drones, especially in its western Kursk region, to battle Ukraine's incursion, while the Ukrainians are prepared to fly at least 10 types. Okay, so we're starting to see a lot of fiber optic drones being used here. Here's the fiber optic cable that's connected to these things, and I did a little bit of research on these, and apparently these can go up to 12 miles. I don't think they go as far as some of the other drones that are more vulnerable to electronic warfare, but both sides are starting to heavily use these as it's much harder to bring these down. They're immune to, they're basically undetectable and also immune to electronic warfare. Okay, so both sides, Russia and Ukraine, starting to use these heavily now. Also for Max 24, another freight train derailed in Buryatia. Hopefully I'm saying that right. In Russia, nothing new. Okay, so this is far eastern Russia, just a little bit north of Mongolia, very close to North Korea as well. We had another train that derailed again. Okay, guys, this is just happening literally every week. Like at some point, I'm telling you guys a new story of a new train every single week derailing in Russia. Not really sure how this is happening, but it is happening a lot inside of Russia recently, okay? Yet again, another derailed train event, okay? Now from NOAA reports, for the first time since 2022, Ukraine may have a tank advantage over Russia, according to Forbes. Thanks to drones, Russian tanks are forced to retreat far from the front line, firing from hidden positions. This limits their effectiveness, turning them into makeshift howitzers and stripping them of their assault capabilities. All right, so this was a new report that came out today from Forbes stating that in some areas along the front line, it's not everywhere that this is happening, but in some areas, Ukraine does have an advantage when it comes to Russia having more tanks, okay? So usually in most areas on the battlefront, Russia has had for sure the superior or tank superiority for the most part in this war, but in some areas, because of how many of these FPV drones that Ukraine has been using, they have to decrease the amount of tanks they're using and keep them further away so the FPV drones cannot attack them, okay? So that's very big, and once again, more evidence to show that FPV drones being used in this war are extremely useful to the Ukrainians, and they're holding Russian tanks back now, okay? So that's a very big report coming out today. Now for more translated Dmitry, Russia's Shahed-type drone flying at record low altitude, almost grazing rooftops, trying to evade air defense in the Kiev region. So I've got a new video showing a Russian Shahed drone flying extremely low, guys. I'm talking 20, 30 feet, not too high above many of these homes, and it's to avoid, being shot down. So it's once again another video showing these drones getting lower and lower to the ground to prevent them from being taken down from Ukrainian air defense teams. Take a look at this, 7 seconds long. All right, isn't that crazy how low that thing is flying? I mean, you could almost throw a baseball and hit that thing, okay? It's pretty crazy. We had some videos just a few weeks back of some other Shahed drones that were flying extremely low, but they were still flying, relatively high, for sure higher than, some of the skyscrapers inside of Kiev, maybe 100 feet or something like that. But this one looks like it could be, maybe 30, 40 feet off the ground. So pretty insane video. Russia's getting more clever with these drones, starting to fly them a lot lower to make it harder to take them down. Also from Igor Sushko, Russia factory burned down in the Moscow suburb of Kimiki. Okay, so another factory that's burned down. I don't know exactly what this factory is being used for. I tried to look around, see if I could find some information on that, but I wasn't able to locate that information, unfortunately, for you guys. So I don't know if this factory has anything to do with the war or not, or if this was just some sort of accident. But lots of factories have been burning down recently inside of Russia due to drone attacks, as we just reported a couple days ago. So I'm not sure if that's one of those same factories or not, but we did have one burning down in Russia just today. Also from Bliskovka, Russia's attacked Sumi with drones, including a children's recreation center, the SES reports. The residential sector of the city was also damaged. The fires were extinguished with no casualties. Okay, so major drone attack onto Sumi today. This is a city just over the border of the Kursk region where the Ukrainians are fighting over there. And I want to show you this new video of major attacks inside of the city of Sumi in Ukraine. Lots of damage here. You're going to see firefighter crews trying to put out fires from these the destruction of these buildings due to these drones. Take a look. All right, very sad to see once again the city of Sumi inside of Ukraine being heavily battered by drones last night. We've seen the city of Sumi being hit very hard recently over the last few months, especially when Ukraine started to move into the Kursk region, is when Sumi started to get hit really hard. Lots of bombs are dropped all over Sumi all the time. So looks like we can see lots of residential infrastructure. Looks like homes and reportedly a recreation center or some sort of school was hit as well. Very sad to see that in Ukraine. Also from Max 24, PLAS Factor warehouse for storing reconnaissance drones in Rostov region after joint operation carried out by SBU and Navy. Okay, so the PLAS Factor factory, we talked about this during that same day that I've been talking about here during this video with all these factories that were being attacked. This was one of them that was hit, and reportedly in the Rostov region, this could have been used to store ammunition and drones, Shahed drones, and this could have been a major effect for the Russian military in terms of their drone use. So I wanted to show you a new video coming out showing the destruction of this facility. Take a look at this, 27 seconds long.
Да. Ну, надо спросить, я не знаю. То есть, надо посмотреть.
All right, we can see from this video the PLAS factory completely destroyed. And again, we understand that munitions and drones being stored in here, most likely contributing to the destruction of this building. Probably lots of secondary explosions here while this factory was hit. So this factory is completely gone. And that same day, Ukraine was reporting that Russia was using a lot of these factories for disguising them as ordinary warehouses, but they were actually being used for military purposes. So that was a new video update coming out regarding the PLAS Factor warehouse, okay, in the Rostov region. Now moving on to another update from Nexta. Russia and Iran to sign a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement. This will take place during a meeting between Putin and Iranian President Pezeshkian on January 17th. Okay, that's 4 days from now. Previously, Russia signed a similar agreement with North Korea. The treaty includes, among other things, provisions for mutual military assistance. Additionally, the Times reported that Iran has been conducting secret diplomatic missions to Russia to secure support for its nuclear program. Okay, this was actually being reported weeks back. We knew that Russia and Iran were going to be meeting very soon, and it looks like Vladimir Putin is going to meet with Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, and they're going to be meeting very soon. Also with Pezeshkian, the president of Iran, and they're going to be holding a major meeting and signing a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement. Okay, so very similar to what we're seeing happening with North Korea. We're going to have major military ties between Russia and Iran very soon. Now more threats to the West. Okay, moving on to another update from Bliskovka. We've got two things left to show you before we get you out of here. Air Defense Forces of Ukraine destroyed 78 out of 110 Russian UAVs. 31 Russian imitator UAVs were lost locally without negative consequences. So here's a daily update showing the amount of drones that were taken down. So 78 out of 110 total shot down, probably some being lost to electronic warfare as well. So it looks like Ukraine is now getting better at taking down a lot of these incoming drones. I mean, 78 out of 110, that's pretty good if you ask me. All right, moving on to another update now from Kiev Independent. These are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of January 13th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. All right, guys, final update of the day. Russia's losses as of January 13th reported by the Ukrainian side. 1,510 troops, 26 AFVs, 110 vehicles and fuel tanks, 8 tanks, 37 artillery systems, 183 UAVs, 1 MLRS, 2 anti-aircraft warfare systems, and 1 special equipment being destroyed on the Russian side. Okay, so if you notice here, we're now over 800,000 troops reportedly lost in battle, okay, whether that be killed or wounded in battle, casualties in total, okay, so the number is definitely rising every single day the longer this war goes on, and definitely tons of huge updates today. So I have a feeling over the next week we're going to be talking a lot about Russia's economy as the sanctions are going to continue to take effect. We're going to be seeing more of these oil tankers starting to show up at China and India and they're not going to be able to take these oil tankers in. So this is going to be a big problem for Russia. But the big question is, will Russia be able to find a way to circumvent these new sanctions now and still deliver this oil to these ports inside of China and Russia, as China and Russia being major importers of Russian oil? Okay, so very big update today. Just wanted to give you guys some of these details, and I want to thank you so much for hanging out here with me today. If you got something out of this update, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my update, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell, that way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.